IAAF can't go one meet without embarrassing the sport. But the meet was good. Alright, everybody, welcome back to the Running Through YouTube page. My name, of course, is Justin Horniger, and today I'm going to review the Diamond League Doha meet that just took place. I plan on doing this for the whole of the Diamond League season and some marathons, a little bit of a race recap kind of series where I'm not necessarily going to dive into everything that happened in the meet, but I'm going to talk on the main talking points, and then if you guys want to dive deeper, feel free to dive deeper. This meet was of importance because it was Caster Semenya's final meet before her IAAF mandated I don't even know, it's the opposite of doping, but it's not anti-doping, so whatever you would call that, where she has to dope herself out of competition, would come into effect. So, Caster, on a few days' notice, decided to enter herself in the 800 meter for one last hurrah as we know it. So from here on out, it's an unknown frontier, and we'll see what happens. But I want to end this recap on that note because I have some things to say. I talked about the whole situation on my podcast, a little bit of a self-plug, which I'll link below if you want to dive deep into the science and the ethics and the feelings, because it's a little bit of an emotional argument as well as a quantifiable argument. And it's okay to not know the answer. So let's start this thing off with the men's 800 meter, which is the first real big race I watched during the day. And I've come to the assumption that if we want to make new track and field fans, that we just need to mandate that everyone everywhere watches at least one 800 meter race, and you'll have a legion of new track fans. Because this race was exciting. It went out pretty hard, but everyone was bunched up. And Donovan Brazier and Nigel Amos and Emmanuel Career were not really in the front, but they moved up hard. And actually, Career was in the lead at the lead lap, so I shouldn't say that, but Career was in the lead. Abdukakar Abdallah was in second, and those two were kind of taking over the race. But as you get to 600, as you get to 500, as you get to 400, all of a sudden Nigel Amos and Donovan Brazier are coming up. They're coming up on the side, and you can see that they're really making tangible progress in this race. Split times for this race, they went through 450.26 led by Bram Sam, and they went through 600 led by Abdukakar Abdallah in 117.97. So this race went out hard. So went out in 50.26. Second lap was 54.03. Second lap was 54.03. So that's probably why you saw an 800 is always going to be negative split or a positive split, right? No one's ever, unless you're Nick Simmons, who even splits and looks like he's massively negative splitting. In a race like this, it's always going to be out hard, and the winner is who can survive the longest. So that's why it goes out like this, and who has the best race tactics of the field, your good money is on Nigel Amos and Donovan Brazier. Even though Brazier is still one of them young go-hards, he was able to figure it out today, really move up in the pack, and down the home stretch, he looked out of it. And then as we're coming up, Kittlett is fading back, Abdallah is fading back, and Brazier just takes him easily. And for a second, I thought that he was going to overtake Career as well. Nigel Amos really put his stamp on this meet, on this race, and won it clean. Won it pretty darn clean. But your first exciting race of the year, a world lead, 144.29 from Nigel Amos, and I expect it's going to be a pretty fast year without this meet. All right, next up on the docket is the men's 3,000 meter steeplechase. In a meet where good money would tell you that Soufine El Bakali was probably going to win it outright. But with Americans like Andy Bayer and Hillary Bohr in it, I was really hoping that one of them would step up and have a great day as well. And that would come to fruition. In a race where you have El Bakali, you have Leonard Kipkomoy, you have Chala Bayu, you have Abraham Kabiwat, you have Lawrence Kipsang. It's a race full of just top-tier talent. However, in this race, you had everyone running personal best or world lead time. However, in the race, you had a lot of people running PBs and PRs, whichever side of the pond you land on. In a race that, it was exciting. I mean, a steeplechase is always going to be exciting. But at one point, Hillary Bohr really decided to try to stamp his place on the meet, on the race. And for someone who, you weren't necessarily expecting to be where he was, is extremely exciting. So through 1K, Munami Sasui was through in 240. Hillary Bohr was in back. El Bakali was in back. So the race really didn't take an expected turn until the very end, because at 2K, Wilberforce Kone was in first, went through 2K at 526.86. And over this was when you saw it play out like you would expect. It was kind of late. El Bakali never looked great. He never looked like he was in control of the race. Really didn't start moving up until about 600 left. But when you have talent, you don't necessarily have to be in prime position throughout. So El Bakali, he's moving up. Hillary Bohr takes off. Hillary Bohr takes the lead. And Hillary Bohr is off the front. And with 400 left, I thought that Bohr had a chance to win. So, especially at the last steeple, so at the last water jump, Hillary Bohr takes the lead, and he takes it pretty commandingly. However, if you pay attention to the back, El Bakali is slowly picking people off, one by one, until over the second to last steeple, him and Bohr are kind of neck and neck, and then by the last steeple, El Bakali has pulled away and is able to win. A finishing time of 8:07.22, with Hillary Bohr setting a personal record at 8:08.41, and a pretty big personal record at that. So this race was fantastic for Bohr, the American. Fantastic start for El Bakali. PR of 7:58, world leader last year. So this is about as good as you want to get leading in 8:07. And I think him being in back was less a consequence of him not feeling fit and more a consequence of the race going out faster than he had probably planned for. Okay, so you'll notice at this point that I'm skipping over certain races. I just don't want this recap video to be 25 minutes long. So if you guys want me to recap the rest of the races, comment below, let me know, because I definitely will in the future. I'm just trying to gauge how long I want these videos to be. You know, it's a feeling out process for this fast track Diamond League recap. I like that. That rings very true. So I'm going to skip over the men's 15. I'm going to skip over the 200s. I'm going to skip over the hurdles. I'm going to move straight on to the women's 3,000 meters, and then we'll kind of talk about Caster Semenya's 800-meter race. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe next time I'll take a vote, see what the top three are, and then pick one of my choosing. I think I like that. Okay, so in the women's 3,000 meter, I said before the race that I don't really see anyone taking on Hellen Obiri with the form she's been in. She won all 5 cross-country races this year that she's been in. She's just, I think, ahead of everybody else with where we'll see where that takes her at the end of the year. But if any field is going to do it, it's the field with Genzebe Dibaba. And it got close. I've never seen anyone be able to pull away. That when Dibaba makes her move and she starts passing and she comes up on your shoulder, usually that means that Dibaba's going to win. And I think she has that confidence, and everyone knows who she is enough that it just kind of happens. But Obiri was able to hold her own. I think this really cemented her on the world stage, at least in my mind. In a race with Gudaf Sege, Gloria Kite, Caroline Kipkiru, Beatrice Cheprotich, Milan Regnaruk, and Genzebe Dibaba. Man, that field is crazy good. Okay, let's go over the splits a little bit before I go into kind of my takeaways. So lap times were 108, 110, 109, 108, 109, 106, and then 60-second last lap. And these girls were moving. So your leaders at 1,000 were Mary Karua, who was one of the pacers, and then Gudaf Sige. And Hellen Obiri, I mean, the way that she was able to do this thing, it wasn't necessarily how you would want somebody to do it. But with a PR of 8:20.68, I admit I've been discounting her in my mind. Because when I saw Dibaba move up on her, I was like, oh, Dibaba's got this. But Obiri has the faster PR, so I should have just known that she has that speed. But I think with the way that Dibaba was moving up on her, Obiri looked like she was going to get past. And it looked like she'd already made her move. She had went at the final bell, wasn't able to put enough separation between Dibaba, and I thought, okay, for sure this is over. Dibaba wasn't able to catch her. She comes up on her shoulder, and Obiri has one final burst to pull away pretty handily. So Hellen Obiri wins with a time of 8:25.6. Genzebe Dababa has a PR of 826.20, coming in with a PR of 826.21. So, right on PR pace. And, man, Obiri was able to hold her off. Third place was Liliane Kassat-Ragnarok, another personal best of 829.02, up from her previous of 832.73. So, it was a fast race, and Obiri was the class of the field. Let's move on to the 800 meters, shall we? And what is going to be the lasting legacy of this meet? And I don't think we're going to remember, as good as this meet was as a whole, we're not going to remember anything else besides for the 800 meter race. Why? Because after CAS's ruling 2-1 that Caster Semenya had to uphold IAAF regulations that they had put in place, keeping the threshold level at 5 nanomoles of testosterone per liter. This is probably the last of Caster Semenya run of form as we know her. Going forward, she's either going to have to do something else legally or dope herself out of competition, anti-dope herself out of competition. Knowing that, after the ruling came down, Semenya was originally not supposed to be in the 800. She was not entered. She was not in the race. But after the ruling came down, all of a sudden, she's in the start list. So, okay, here we go. That's when you knew it was must watch. And really, the race itself was not exciting outside the fact that you just have to watch and observe. Because Semenya went to the front from the get-go, was off the front. Niyonsaba made a go at it, but she was never going to catch Semenya. She was always out front. It was always going to be seconds that she was going to win by. Niyonsaba at 600 meters was closer. She was about a second, half second back. But by the time we got to the final, Caster Semenya wins in a world lead in a meet record, 154.98. Francine Niyonsaba was next, 157.75. And Aji Wilson coming up in third in 158.83. The race behind him was a little bit closer. Aji Wilson was essentially able to be the best of the rest as far as the main pack is concerned. But let's kind of recap this Caster Semenya thing real quick. I had a long, lengthy discussion with my girlfriend Claire on the podcast last night. You guys also saw that I put out, as the ruling came down, kind of an initial reaction. And I don't think my view has necessarily changed a little bit. The thing that I have changed on is just feeling a little bit disgusted with how this all went down. Caster has not been treated well, and I realize that IAAF's thought is, well, if the ends justify the means, that we have this threshold set in place. The problem is that they have been completely discriminatory towards one specific runner, that being Caster Semenya. The way that CAS decided to frame the research, being through 400 meters to 3,000 meters, that's pretty specifically geared towards Caster Semenya, right? It seems like it anyway. There are other intersex athletes, there are other people who will be affected by this ruling, but it really seems like it's geared towards Semenya. And being that she is the highest profile DSD runner, and that she has the most to lose from it, I was pretty impressed with how she handled herself this race. All business-like, didn't really say a bad word about anything, which if I was in her situation, I would be very outspoken. She was handed the bouquet after the race and threw him into the stand, so I liked that little touch. If the genie is out of the bottle, that we have to draw a threshold on it, I understand. And I don't have the answer as to where that threshold will be. I think IAAS research initially was flawed on where that threshold should be. I am not wavering on that necessarily, but I'm wavering on the treatment that we have given Caster Semenya, and I don't know, I really feel for her as another human being, as a person who has competed in the sport. And I think that's pretty unanimous. I think we all kind of feel the same way as to the treatment that Caster is getting. Oh, and then IAAF puts this on after the race. Isn't nice to see. An intern is getting fired over that one. But it's nice to see the sports scientists in the field and, people in the elite field kind of have the same approach to it, in that if it has to be done, then it has to be done. But with how Caster has been able to hold herself, I'm impressed. And I hope that this will be resolved. And I think it will. I don't think this is the end. I think we can see a situation where, I don't know, I can't predict the future. This is uncharted territory we're about to trek into. And I just ask that everyone, one, doesn't conflate arguments, because I've been seeing that a lot. Two, doesn't speak out their ass about sports science that they don't understand, because I see that a ton. Half the arguments that I get into on Twitter about people just not understanding scientific terms, not understanding what certain research means, and trying to conflate the Caster Semenya argument with transgender athlete argument. And they're not the same, because Caster Semenya is not a transgender athlete. She's not. And people don't understand that. And that, I think, is where a lot of the initial outrage came from. It's not the same argument. And we're treating Caster, and by correlation, other intersex athletes, pretty terribly in this whole thing. I don't have an answer. Maybe the answer is that we need a third category of races, but I don't think that's going to happen. So that's where I'll end this thing. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. Let me know your final thoughts on the Caster Semenya situation below. Also, let me know what you want me to do in the future as far as events go, if you want me to hold a vote before the video, or if you want me to cover the whole thing. Let me know below, down there. And with that, I say thank you. I say work hard, be nice, happy running. We'll talk soon.
Yeah. I'm here to change the game up. I'm here to shuffle up the deck. You'll probably think I'm famous 'cause